let's talk about, so we understand the specialty side of the business. Talk to me about the wholesale side. That's where you're out there helping on the store brands, right?
Mhm. Well, so there's a couple of different ways that works. So a lot of our partners, which I love, is a strict Hubs brand product that is on the shelf. We have a lot where we have a co-branded situation. So Orbis, for example, love that company. It's a great demographic for our brand, outdoor apparel, active living, but on their label, they tell our story on one side. It's an Orbis brand, but on the side of it, it talks about our story and what we do. And I love that kind of collaborative approach to some of those accounts. And then we have a company like Wegmans, who it's a pure private label, which and we are Wegmans Foods You Feel Good About private label peanut. And it's when you have the Virginia peanuts in the nice tin or the chocolate cupboard that they carry for 4 or 5 months of the year. That's us, and that's the only trick that people, if they know our brand, we have a key on the top of that can, and with a little Peanut Man sticker. And so people that really know Hubs and have gone to Wegmans are like, hey, I think that might be Hubs. You're like, yeah, it is. And Wegmans is okay for us to share that we do that. And they're a wonderful kind of partner. But those are the kind of 3 different approaches to our branding with wholesale partners. More and more, I really love the co-branded approach, because you have a brand or like, let's say, Orvis has a brand that their customers already trust. So they know that they're partnering with companies that are like-minded and have a similar vision and approach to business. And I like being able to partner in that capacity. I just think that's fun. You have a trusted brand. We have a trusted brand. Let's work together. But, obviously you as a marketer, you're trying to build your brand as much as you can. So getting on the shelf as Hubs or all of our other initiatives, that it's really a focus on how do you see our logo, you see our brand, hopefully to you that represents excellence in peanuts. And that's kind of what we work towards.
I really love the co-branded piece, because I think that's so important from a marketing standpoint for those listening, that it's not always about, getting our brand out there all the time, all by itself, but look for places where you can uniquely partner. And you talk about Wegmans, who, again, upstate New York, we all know Wegmans. My wife will tell you that she spends, half of her paycheck there.
Yeah.
And when we had 7 kids in the house, and so when we had all the kids, we had a pretty heavy. So one of the things that I'll share, that Wegmans has co-branded before. So it's interesting that, I would have loved, I love those stories. And Wegmans had co-branded on their sub sandwiches that were they're Wegman subs now, but that was a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, started the submarine, shop, DeBella's Subs, and he had an incredible sandwich, and he made the bread himself, and he had this great recipe, got really high quality meats, and the first store that he opened and branded and did all of that stuff, he told the story about his grandfather, and when you walked into this place, it had tin roof ceilings, and you just felt like you had gone back in time when you were in there. It was an old Italian deli, and there was always a line. He had one store, a line at lunchtime that was out the door regardless of the time of year. And, I know the story because I'm, friends with, Joey DeBella, but Danny Wegman went in there, saw the line, and he's like, I want this. And over time, they put something together. And years ago, when they first did that, it told the story of how their grandfathers both had delis or grocery stores not that far apart. And I just loved that story. And part of me is, I understand Wegmans building their brand, but to me, that story of that connection was more powerful than it is today, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think that would be something that I will continue to pitch to Wegmans when I meet with them, because I love their brand as well, and I think if we could tie some of that together, because my understanding, that was a very fortunate account for us. Danny Wegman was received a can of Hubs from a friend of his.
Got
He was
it.
eating them and said, those are the peanuts that I want in my store. And so I understand that we are also a Danny brand, right? And
Yeah.
so, which is great that that's so cool that he can do that. But I would love to figure out how to tell that story on the can at Wegmans, and it's similar to what you just told me. I think that's a great approach, and things are shifting a little bit where people like local artisans and they want to connect with a smaller business. We're very much a small business, so I think there's opportunity there too. So we'll see.
And the fact that they're helping, that's the part that I think that is missed. And that, yes, we've got this great big brand, but you're Wegmans. But if you're also the brand that's bringing other people success as well, now it's just like, boom, it's a 1-2 punch.
I agree, and I'm sure they're having these same discussions, but it's just a huge change to.
Well, when we get so one of my things is I want Danny and Colleen on the show, because one day, so you can take this episode and send that over to them when we get this thing recorded, because I think that there's some really neat things that they do by nature. That I teach businesses that they don't get, culture and values and a lot of the things that were built right into Wegmans theory right from day one.
Absolutely. And that Wegmans, now that we've been working with them for 20 years or so, I really started to understand their business and their approach. And I am totally inspired by what they've created as a family business. I mean, there's no better example of a family business that's really invested in their community, their suppliers, their partners. I mentioned Whole Foods. I'm from the South, and that's where I didn't have an opportunity to work at Wegmans. But it's a similar kind of culture, but they've maintained this family dynamic, and so an ideal fit for you to interview those two for sure. But yeah, such an inspiration, and I'm just thrilled that they are now in Virginia and in North Carolina, and we take an hour trip to go to Wegmans occasionally, where my wife will spend her whole paycheck. So and we love it because it's like, we're going to get all these things that we can't get. It's great.
All right, so you're on my show.